Salufalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Swiswiki. Coming up.
That is an insult to our marine cultural protection as Indigenous people.
A US court ignores White House orders on commercial fishing. Also,
it was amazing and inspiring to see so many up-and-coming youth leaders from around the region or the Pacific region.
Pacific youth gather in Samoa to discuss climate-induced loss and damage, and Pacific rugby takes centre stage again. A US District Court has tossed a federal directive allowing commercial fishing in protected Pacific waters in defiance of orders from the White House. In April, President Donald Trump ordered fishing to be allowed within the Pacific Islands Heritage Marine National Monument, an area spanning more than 1.2 million square kilometres of ocean. Kaya Selby has more.
Back in April, the executive order was quickly met with a lawsuit by campaign group Earth Justice on behalf of conservation groups across Hawaii. Among them is Solomon Pelikauahalahala of the Kapa'a community. They call him Uncle Sol. For him, this was personal.
For me personally, that is an insult to our marine cultural protection as Indigenous people to ensure that our children's children will have a place to help to take care of them in their time.
Uncle Sol approached Earth Justice's David Hankin shortly after the executive order was issued. Hankin is a Honolulu-based lawyer who became the lead attorney for the case. Mr. Hankin calls this a victory, but says there is still a long way to go.
The court understood that the fisheries service should not have jumped the gun and told commercial fishers that they could start doing the commercial fishing in the monument without involving the public, without going through a process of rulemaking where they could have considered what types of commercial fishing should continue to be prohibited to ensure that we don't destroy the objects of scientific and historic value within the monument.
The National Marine Fisheries Service issued that directive on April the 25th. Almost immediately after, fishing vessels flooded into the waters, according to ship tracking data. Uncle Sol believes that Indigenous rights are falling victim to Trump's rhetorical belief that the United States needs to dominate in all things.
Evidently, the colonizer, the United States, has a very different view that has no support for generational view and protection of resources, and in fact it has now tried to just say we want to extract everything we can because we want to be the biggest and the best.
Mr. Hankin says the lawsuit against the White House will continue in October.
More than 20 young people from across the Pacific have been in Samoa for the first Pacific Youth Dialogue on Loss and Damage. The head of news at the Broadcasting Corporation of Niue, Esther Pavihi, is there and filed this report.
More than 20 young people from across the Pacific are here in Samoa to share their experiences, share their stories about climate change-induced loss and damage. Organised by the Regional Environment Program, SPREP, this is an opportunity or a safe space for young people to speak out about their experiences. At the opening ceremony yesterday, the Director of Climate Change for SPREP, Tangaloa Cooper, said, "Your voices will be heard." That promise was well received by some of these delegates.
1, 2, 3. 1.5 to stay alive.
Niue's Charlotte Matungia is one of the delegates at this youth dialogue.
The opening this morning at the Youth Dialogue was really good. It was amazing and inspiring to see so many up-and-coming youth leaders from around the region or the Pacific region all share the same interest in protecting our culture, our traditions and our way of life, coming off issues like climate change, which is so relevant now in the Pacific, and the impacts of loss and damage.
Pacific Island cultures and traditions are at stake, says Kinley Kenneth from Palau.
It is very important that young people across the Pacific are aware of just how important loss and damage is, not only for the Pacific region itself, but on a global scale as well. Loss and damage refers to the economic and non-economic loss, which refers to not only economic livelihood, but also our culture and our tradition at stake.
Jabeth Guy from Papua New Guinea said that the smallness of the Pacific Islands does not diminish the strength of a collective voice.
I'm glad to be here. It is dialogue for youths of the Pacific on loss and damage. I believe the opening session has been rightfully mentioned by our SPREP director that this is the voice of the Pacific, and especially for the youths, we have that, the voice that will speak up at not only at our local community level, but basically going international. The youth voices as a collaborative effort for the Pacific Islands, what we can bring out to the international stage and tell them that us at the Pacific, we're not only a small nation, but we're very collaborative and a powerful voice as well.
Some of the delegates have had to travel through several countries, leaving their homes for weeks to attend. Anne Albert from the Federated States of Micronesia shares her story.
Important to engage in loss and damage or the negotiations about climate change because this is very serious. Back home, we are facing the issues of sea level rise, coastal erosion, drought, but people living in the outer islands are mostly affected by the issues of climate change.
As we watch these young people share their stories, they also shared some possible solutions that they hope to take to the regional roundtable.
Pacifica Rugby takes centre stage again over the next few weeks, involving both men and women's teams from the region. The Flying Fijians will defend the Pacific Nations Cup, that competition kicking off on 23rd of August in Nuku'alofa. And the Fijiana and Manusina rugby teams are headed for the 2025 Women's Rugby World Cup event in England, which also kicks off next weekend. Our senior sports journalist Eliesa Tora joins me for our Sipoti Talanoa. Bula Eliesa, looks like a busy schedule ahead for rugby in the region. Can you take us through what's in store as far as the Women's Rugby World Cup is concerned?
Yo, mula binaka, and surely an interesting Rugby World Cup, Women's Rugby World Cup coming up, where both the Fijiana from Fiji and Manusina Samoa will be competing against the best in the world. And that will kick off on the 23rd of August, which will be next weekend in England. Samoa, Manusina are in Pool A against Australia, England, and USA, who are all Tier 1 teams, and Fiji are in Pool B with Canada, Scotland, and Wales. Manusina will play Samoa early morning on Sunday our time, but Saturday night their time in England. Manusina Samoa will play Australia in their first pool game, while Fiji will take on Canada on Sunday morning. Their time there, but Monday our time here in the Pacific. It has been challenging for both teams, especially Manusina. In the build-up that they have done, I was speaking to them last weekend, and the concern was that there wasn't any, matches against Tier 1 teams, except that they were able to play Fiji last Saturday in Singatoka. They played at the Oceania Championship against Fiji and Tonga in June, July, which served as their warm-up matches. But apart from that, they were not able to have any other game. But despite that, head coach Ramsey Tomokino is confident that the team will be not only going to participate at the World Cup, but will be there to compete and perform. He stressed that they really want to go out there to compete and perform against the Tier 1 teams that they are facing, and they're looking forward to the event. Fijiana, on the other hand, named their squad at the weekend, and they are also, having played in the World Cup last, I think, 4 years ago, when they last played, and they are looking forward to the upcoming competition as well, especially with a lot of interest now in women's rugby in the region, where Tonga, Fiji, and Samoa are all being countries of focus on rugby development, especially women's rugby. So exciting, and something to look forward to. And we hope that both Fiji and Samoa will go to the World Cup, compete and perform for their own rankings and for the possibility that they can qualify for the World Cup after that.
Yeah, definitely an exciting competition to keep our eyes peeled on. Just putting our focus towards Pacific men's rugby. The Flying Fijians head coach McBurn has just named a squad, while Manu Samoa and the Ikaletahi have been in preparation for the last 2 weeks, at least for the Pacific Nations Cup. How is that competition shaping up?
There's certainly another interesting competition coming up. The formation of the 3 different national squads, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga, we see have a lot of potentials in the sense that there are a lot of young players who have been selected, mainly because most of the senior players, one, are tied down with club commitments in Europe and in Japan, because those 2 competitions are just going to kick off in the next few weeks, and of course here in New Zealand for the national provincial championship, where a lot of the players are tied up with them with that competition as well. So Fiji has just named their squad. In fact, just on Monday they named their squad for the Pacific Nations Cup, and they will be defending that title. There are only 4. I see from the squad that there's only 4 Europe-based and Japan-based players who are in the squad, mainly made up of Fiji and Drua. Both Samoa and Tonga have also included players who have been playing for clubs here in New Zealand and Australia, some from America, and a few from the Moana Pacifica setup that played in the Super Rugby competition. But very interesting in the fact that Tonga and Samoa will be fighting for qualification into the 2027 Rugby World Cup from the PNC. The PNC is going to be a qualifier, and Tonga and Samoa will be fighting against Canada and America, who also will be vying to compete. Oceania has 3 spots, so the 4 teams will be fighting for the 3 spots that are available for World Cup qualification. That will kick off on the 23rd, where Tonga will be hosting Samoa at Teofaiva Stadium in Nuku'alofa. Canada and the USA will be playing off in their first game in Calgary. There are two pools. One is the Pacific pool, Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, and the Asia pool, where Japan, Canada, and the USA will be in that. So it will kick off on the 23rd. But I think a lot of focus will be on how Samoa and Tonga will fare in their game next week, and how they will take that forward, with the hope that they can fight to qualify in the top 3 after the competition finalizes in about 4 weeks' time.
There's also some excitement in Samoa, where the Oceania Football Under-16 Women's Championship has been running. What's the story there?
Yes, interesting and exciting news coming out of Apia today with Samoa. They're in fact, yesterday the Samoa Under-16 women's team booked their spot in the final of the OFC Under-16 Women's Championship that's happening in Samoa. They will face New Zealand in the final on Thursday. That is going to be the 2nd consecutive year that Samoa has been able to do that. And in doing so, in winning their semi-final spot and booking a place in the final, Samoa has also booked their place at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Morocco next year. And interestingly, Samoa did the same thing last year. In the qualifiers last year, they also qualified for the final and met New Zealand. And in that sense, they also qualified as the number 2 OFC team, and they are going to be playing in the World Cup this year. So Samoa will be appearing in 2 consecutive World Cups from soccer. First time last year, second time they've done it, and it really shows that Samoa football has been doing a lot of work in developing football in Samoa. And also, the interesting fact also is that they have been able to secure some of their young players who are playing football in New Zealand, Australia, and especially the States, who have come in and boosted the team with their experience. And the future really looks bright for Samoa, the way they are going. New Zealand, of course, defeated New Caledonia to claim their spot in the final, and an interesting final coming out on Thursday between Samoa and New Zealand. But whatever the result, I think the exciting news that has come out from Maipia is that Samoa has now qualified for their second World Cup in women's football.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.